our first presentation will be delivered by His Highness Sayyid Azzan. So he's a space leader from Oman, who has actively working in the industry since 2014. And in 2021, he was nominated, and he started the business. We will hear about this in a few minutes, about a national airspace service company that actually building the first launching facility in Oman. And I wish you good luck, and we'll be very happy to hear your presentation. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. So today I'll just be speaking freely. I don't have really a presentation, but I'm very excited to be here to actually tell you a bit about Nascom, the National Aerospace Services Company at Oman, and our journey. So I think that's going to be the first part, and then after we talk a bit about Nascom, and then we can get on to the spaceport, which we've named Etlaq Space Port. So yeah, I mean, about 5 to 10 years ago, you know, the industry, especially in Oman, for space was almost non-existent. So we're very happy in the last sort of 5 years that the government has created initiatives for private companies to actually develop concepts. And that's sort of how I got involved with the National Space Program of Oman in 2020, which was basically my first time, you know, to developing concepts for the government. And our main focus, as it was mentioned earlier, was on infrastructure, because we had to be very exact when we look at what Oman, or how Oman can participate in the regional space activities, but also how we can contribute to the global space industry. And so, you know, one of the things, I think one of the only activities that was really going on in terms of space or space science for the last maybe 15 years before this bubble started to grow was astronomy. So Oman has a very you know, long history with astronomy, and so do the rest of the Arab nations for hundreds of years. And one of the leading local societies here is the Astronomical Society of Oman, and we actually have been approaching space science through astronomy up until the last few years. Now, in the last 5 years, we have you know, different companies coming up in the industry. You might have heard of Amansat, which is a CubeSat by one of our partner organizations, which was launched by SpaceX. Finally, I think it was last month. And before that, it was attempting to launch on Virgin Orbit. However, it was failed. So all of these new things coming up, it's literally just in the last 5 years. And you know, coming into the question of Nascom, where did Nascom, or how does Nascom fit into this landscape? So in 2020, as I said, joining the National Space Program, which is under the Ministry of Transport, Communication, and IT in Oman, we really wanted to survey the landscape to develop concepts. And one of the main concepts was actually to utilize the launch location of Duqm. So Duqm is on the coast of Oman, about in the middle of the coast of the coastline. And there had been studies previously by global companies pinpointing not just Oman, but this specific part of the coast for the favorable launch conditions. One of them being obviously the equatorial positioning of Duqm, but also the easterly downrange clearance. So we have the Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean as well for the downrange clearance. And so actually in 2019, a global launch company from America, I can't say who, but they approached the government. This is before the space program existed. And they were looking to actually set up their own spaceport. Now, for some reason or another, the actual concept did not pass through the regulators and the institutions. And so that attempt to create the spaceport originally from external entities was not successful. So when I was at the program back in 2020 and 2021, we saw this as a missed opportunity, but we also saw it as a real opportunity for us to actually go through with it, but from a national project. And so we began doing more studies about the specific area required and where exactly on the coast. Obviously, Duqm as a city is a international free zone. So there are many up and coming facilities there, one of them being the dry dock and the petroleum refinery. There's other industrial projects coming up recently. Hydrogen has been announced there. So it's an up and coming, you could say, frontier town, where when we got down there on the ground, we actually surveyed the whole coastline and were able to identify what is now today the site for Etlaq Space Port. But just taking a step back before we actually talk about the Etlaq Space Port, that's not the only concept that Nascom has developed for the government. We had also developed a concept for radio telescope for deep space exploration. So I'm sure some of you know about the capabilities of radio telescopes. One easy example is that I think it was 2 years ago when the image of the first image of the black hole came out. So a lot of people don't realize that image of the black hole has actually been created through something called interferometry. So the interferometry between many radio telescopes around the world put together created that image. And so we were looking at this as an opportunity even before that image came out, as why aren't there any radio telescope facilities in the Middle East? And from our studies, we found that one of the main drawbacks is the dust particle level in the atmosphere. So the dust particle levels in the atmosphere in this part of the world are too high for radio telescopes to be able to explore deep space. But when looking further into it, we realized that Oman is, I think, one of the only countries in the Gulf. I think Saudi and Oman are the only two countries in the Gulf that have mountains that are 2,000 meters above sea level. So once you reach 2,000 meters and above, the dust particles are not as concentrated, and so the radio telescopes can function for deep space. And so we actually pinpointed some locations within the Oman mountain ranges that could be very, very, very useful for this activity. And so we've developed that concept. So that concept is another infrastructure project that how Oman can contribute regionally and globally to space science and space exploration. And radio telescopes, as some of you will know, and you can read up on them, but they are very, very accurate. So that's a bit about the background of Nascom, how we've developed the concepts. Now coming to today, I mean, what is our or what has been our main line of business and concentration over the last 2 years is the Etlaq Space Port. Now I can't give too many details because we are unveiling the master plan of the spaceport in January at the Middle East Space Conference, which is going to be held in Oman from the 8th to 10th of January. We're going to be unveiling the master plan. But I can give a bit of information about the project in the sense of, there are many similarities between the landscape where we are building and similar spaceports. So if you look at Starbase, for example, Starbase is very close to the coast. And for example, Starbase have had some issues with their launch complexes sinking because there are many lagoons near that area. We, on the other hand, we don't have so many lagoons near our coastal location. However, we do have other challenges. One of the challenges, obviously, is water. So water is a big component, especially the bigger the launch vehicle, the more water is needed for diffusing the as part of the flame trench process. But each challenge that we've found a solution, and that's one of the things that keeps pushing us forward. Another piece of information I can share about Etlaq is that it will run 100% on renewable energy. So that will be, I guess, one of the first of its kind spaceports in the world. Another thing that makes it unique as well is that it's 100% commercially driven. So Oman, we don't currently have any local launch capabilities. However, and that's one of the main reasons why it's fully commercial, because we're looking to cater to existing and up and coming launch companies from around the world. And if you look at this from a regional perspective, we'd be more than happy, definitely, to utilize such a facility and such a spaceport for our neighbors, such as the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, if they have plans to create their own launch vehicles. Then I think it would be ideal to launch them from Oman, and it's part of the whole joint effort. Otherwise, I mean that sort of sums up Etlaq as a spaceport. Again, I can't go into too much detail. I think another detail I can say is that by design, we will be able to launch all sizes of launch vehicles from micro all the way up to large, and so that will be within our capacity. And there will be a aspect of interoperability between those launch complexes, meaning that we can have at least two launch companies based at the spaceport at any given time. We've been approached, since we announced the project in this January, been approached by a number of launch companies, even horizontal launch. So horizontal launch again is becoming more of a discussion these days. We don't have any immediate plans to integrate horizontal launch, but we never say no in that sense, that we're open to that, because as the technologies change, we have things like supersonic, hypersonic launch vehicles that look like planes. Like, for example, if you've seen Top Gun, the latest Top Gun, something like that. And yeah, I mean that's it. I mean, I think one of the main things as well here, which doesn't exist, which we're bringing with this project, is the actual regulations. So we know that for the spaceport to appeal to established global launch companies, we have to have the local regulations in Oman that are compatible with the FAA and the CAA, the American FAA and the CAA, for example, of Europe and other countries. By sticking to those standards, we'll be able to cater to a lot of launch companies, existing and up and coming. And that's a bit about Etlaq Spaceport. Please feel free to check out our website, etlaq.om, or also nascom.om, not .com, so just .om for Oman. And I'm very happy to see actually that there are regional collaborations happening, and we really believe that for this project to succeed, we need regional input. And we're more than happy to begin discussions with regional players. And I think if we work together, we will be in space soon, and getting to space from our region with vehicles built by our region. The whole turnkey can be done regionally, inshallah, in the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for your time today.